In this video, I'm going to discuss how to achieve a simulated emulsion effect in Photoshop. Emulsion, essentially, is a substance that's light sensitive that can be used to be painted onto paper and then developed in the darkroom. We can use the digital darkroom to create a similar effect. These are some examples from a Google search for emulsion photography. It's a very nice example. Here's another good example. I'm not exactly 100% sure whether these are actual liquid emulsion, darkroom processed images, or simulations. And that's what we're really going for. Here it implies that it is a liquid photographic. This is quite neatly painted on. But if you look, generally we should see evidence of the brush strokes, both at the edges and even somewhat in the center of the image. See, the streakiness in there adds to the appeal of images like this. So I'm going to head over to Lightroom. I've chosen this image, the split-toned image, to apply an emulsion simulation effect to in Photoshop. So now I'm in Lightroom. I'm going to go ahead and go to Photo, Edit in Photoshop. I'm going to choose Edit a Copy with Lightroom Adjustments because I do want the split-toned effect. Go ahead and click on Edit. It's going to open the image within Photoshop for me. You may have seen some scribbles here. I was just testing out different brushes for what I might want to use here. So I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. So now in Photoshop, you should see your layers palette. I'm going to ask that you go ahead and create a layer mask. That is a little button at the bottom of the layers palette next to the effects button. So if you hover over it, it'll ask you create layer mask. Since I already have one, it's now asking if I want a vector mask. So just one layer mask here. I'm on large thumbnails. So right now, this layer mask is showing just as white and plain. But essentially, in a layer mask, you have control over what is seen in your image. Okay. Right now, since it's white, all of the image is visible. If I paint black or gray onto the layer mask, that will become hidden. Okay, so basically if I paint black on the layer mask, it will show through underneath this layer. It will act like it's erasing the layer, but the image will be there in its entirety. So what I need to do now is go ahead and create another layer to place below this so that transparent pixels won't show through. I want a white background showing through. So I'm just going to click on Create a New Layer right next to the trash can. I'm going to go ahead and pull it underneath the background layer and edit Fill. I'm going to choose white. Okay, so now I'm going to head back up to the image layer. If I click on that layer, you can see the little frame around the image thumbnail. I need to click on the layer mask and make sure that's active before I begin painting. Okay, so I'm going to head over to the paint brushes, the brush tool. Just in the default set of brushes, I went ahead and experimented with several of these. I'm going to go with the round fan stiff thin bristles brush. possibly in your brush set, if you have the default open, it should be the fifth brush on the second row. You're absolutely free to experiment with whichever brushes you like that you think the effect is going to work well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make the brush as large as it will go. It looks like the max size is about 300 pixels on this brush. That'll be fine. I have black active in the color picker, and I'm simply going to begin to paint. And even though I'm painting with black, it's painting in black on the layer mask. I'm going to make some scribbles just to show how it works, right? So it's actually showing through to the layer beneath it when I paint. For opacity, I'm going to actually start out at about 70% opacity, because I don't want it to be especially solid. I want to kind of build up the painting to make it look a bit more natural. So not all at once. And it doesn't have to be terribly even. I kind of fill in at the edges. I'm actually going to pause for a little bit and build up some of the painting and come right back. Okay, so now that I've built up some of the white edge around the image, I'm going to go ahead and change the color picker to white. So white is the color I'm painting in now on the layer mask, and that will allow me to kind of bring back some subtlety and create a more natural texture in the image. Again, I'm going to pause and build this up just a little bit and be right back. Okay, I'm fairly happy with this. And you can go back and forth between painting in black and white, or shades of gray, essentially, assuming you're not keeping it at 100% opacity. But if you look at what's developed in the layer mask, where it's been painted in black is what's showing of the layer underneath, which is pure white. Okay, if I turn off that layer, you see that the image layer, where it's painted black, is actually hidden. It appears to be erased, but by not erasing it and using the layer mask instead, make sure you're on the layer mask active, not the image, then you can pretty much reveal and take away as you please. For example, this area here, I actually want to go ahead and now paint in black and just fill that in a little bit. I'm trying to make it look somewhat random and like actually painted bristles, okay, as if it were liquid painted onto paper. Now for the center of the image, I'm going to take the opacity way down so that it's barely noticeable. I'm going to start at 17% and just see how that works. So that stroke is visible. I'm going to actually take it down just a bit more, maybe 11%. And just more than a few, probably enough strokes so that it's kind of consistent within the image, maybe even take the opacity down a bit. And if I find that it's maybe a little bit too obvious or affecting the overall effect in a way I don't like, I can always switch back to painting in white to bring back the image where I've hidden it by painting in white on the layer mask. Okay, so when you're happy with the emulsion effect, you just need to go ahead and save the image. in Photoshop, and it will go ahead and create a TIFF file and open in Lightroom. That's assuming the image was initially opened from Lightroom, which this one was. At this point, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and save the image. I'm going to choose Command S on a Mac, would be Control S on a PC. The bottom corner, it's saying saving 98%. Now it should be done. When I navigate back to Lightroom, there is the edited TIFF file. Here is the edited image in Lightroom. As I mentioned, it's a TIFF file and it's layered, so it is a very big file. This one I checked is 240 megabytes as opposed to the original file, which was about 10 to 15 megabytes. Okay. Have fun.